Hi everyone. We are here for office hours today and I'm really excited. Erica and I are going to be talking about what I think is one of the coolest things that we've been able to offer and that I've been able to try out myself. We're going to be talking about continuous glucose monitors and why they're important and the impact they can have on all different aspects of your health. Um, Personally, I think everyone should wear a glucose monitor for at least a month out of the year because it gives so much insight as to how your metabolism is working and also as to like how you're using different foods as fuel or maybe even how you're like storing different foods as energy versus burning them. And it's not always going to be some of the foods that you might think are good for you could actually be spiking your blood sugar and causing it to stay elevated for long amounts of time. And some of the foods that you might not think about eating as often might. I'm trying to bring your God, you're just so. Let's see. Some of the foods you might not be thinking about eating as often might be ones that you need to eat more often because they might help to keep your blood sugar more stable throughout the day. So I'm super excited to jump into this. We do want you guys asking questions throughout the session today. So if you have anything you want to learn more about, please just pop into the chat and ask. We are watching that. And I'm really excited for Erica to join and kind of dig into this topic. Okay, let me see if I can get her. This little writer. Is it not? So I'll tell you guys a little bit about my experience with the CGM. We use the Signos app, which integrates the blood sugar monitor to your food journal that you keep, and it helps keep really good track of like different foods that and meals that you eat throughout the day and like the effect they have on your blood sugar. So the goal when you're using the app is to stay in a specific range while you're, let's see, sorry, you're coming. I wonder why it's, let's see. Let's see your audience. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So the goal is to stay within a certain range of, keep your blood sugar within a certain range all the time. And we want our blood sugar to be as stable as possible. So when you're watching your blood sugar response on your blood sugar monitor throughout the day and kind of like tracking it with the different foods that you eat, you really want it to be kind of more like rolling valleys and hills. It's not supposed to be like a sharp up and down roller coaster. And the more stable your blood sugar is, the better everything's going to be. Your metabolism's going to be better. Your hormone production's going to be better. You're going to have lower amounts of inflammation. And you're just going to feel more energetic. You're not going to have those blood sugar crashes throughout the day or cortisol spikes throughout the day as insulin's kind of jumping around. That can make you feel really moody or tired or just anything like really less than your best self. So I found it really personally helpful and insightful, and I know a lot of our clients have too. Some of the things, like I said earlier, that you think would spike your blood sugar might not, and some of the things, I mean, there's like so much variance here for different people. Some of the things too that you think would be like good choices to eat might actually have a really, big impact on your blood sugar. So for me personally, I was really surprised to learn like we do a lot of gluten-free products at our house, and a lot of them, like we'll do a lot of, for example, like the Simple Mills almond flour crackers that are just, they're made out of almond flours and a flour and a couple of other ingredients. Aren't like, I wouldn't have expected those to cause a change in my blood sugar, but they actually really did. Because they're really just made out of like almonds and a few other things. But I guess, like to me, it was just kind of woke me up to like a carbohydrate's a carbohydrate no matter where it's coming from. And that's where the impact is going to come from with your blood sugar. And then Erica's having, hi.
Hi.
So I'm sure you were listening to me go on and on about how much I love CGMs.
Yes.
I feel like personally, I mean, even as a dietitian, like I was just saying, some of the things that I really like, they are good choices and they can be healthy foods. Like I'm thinking of the Simple Mills almond flour crackers, the cheddar cheese ones that taste like goldfish, but it's literally like almonds and like a few other ingredients. Um, like I was so surprised. Like for me, that was one of the things that really made my blood sugar go up, and it just like kind of brought me back to like a carbohydrate is a carbohydrate, and if you eat them, your blood sugar is going to go up. It doesn't matter where they're coming from, like
Mm-hmm.
they're going to impact your blood sugar. Um, so like for me, that was an interesting one. A banana spiked my blood sugar up to 180,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was so great. Like there's worse things I've eaten. Like last week, I had a piece of cake and it's put my blood sugar up to 150, but a banana will send it up to 180. Like
Was it a really ripe banana or a green banana?
it was a year ago and I haven't eaten one since because I was like, this is crazy. Like, it was such a big spike. It was probably like a pretty, like, healthy looking yellow banana because that's what I normally go for.
Okay.
And the other thing that really got me with this, where I wasn't expecting to see um, a huge change in my blood sugar, I was eating this like no, it's called no grain nola, like a grain free
Mm-hmm.
granola. And again, it's made out of almonds, but there's also like honey and other stuff in it. And I would have a bowl of it every single night before bed because I was just hungry, probably from, and I'll tell you the two things I did that really helped with my blood sugar. Probably from my blood sugar bouncing around all day, I just felt like I needed to eat again. Um, but yeah, that's in my blood sugar to over like 220. And it really, yeah, before bed, it really dawned on me at that point. I was like, why are we eating like the last time that you need to be like fueling up, which is what we do, and like food is fuel. So like, why are we doing that before bed? Like that is the time. It is literally time to rest and digest. You do not need a meal before bed, myself included. It was just like I think I was like putting the kids to bed and then relaxing with like a snack and catching up on work kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw my blood sugar do that, I was like, first of all, that's scary because I eat that all the time. So I got a huge impact on my health by taking it out. And second of all, like, why am I feeling up for good sleep? What am I doing? And then the biggest thing I think that affected my blood sugar. So like once I took, because I was eating bananas and that granola and almond flour crackers like a lot. So I took those out. That was really helpful. But the other thing that I did was, oh, and I'll tell you that there's actually a couple things. One of them was I switched from regular coffee in the morning to organo, which is a mushroom, like adaptogenic blend of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And that really evened my blood sugar out a lot. Just doing that and not having coffee first thing in the morning, that puts me on a crazy blood sugar and mood swing roller coaster all day, like this. So that had a huge impact on my health. And then I also started playing around with fasting, and I did my first bone broth fast, I think in February of last year. And it's 3 days of, mine's kind of like, I I don't know. I tend to have like quite an appetite, but it's mostly bone broth. And then like if you, the way I was doing it, there's lots of ways to fast, but you can have bone broth during the day. And I really like the concept of bone broth fasting. I don't know that I could ever water fast, but I know some people are really into that. Like you, because if you're bone broth fasting, you still get electrolytes, you still get amino acids. And so you're getting some protein. You can add some like butter to the bone broth or MCT oil for fat and sustenance. And I just think it's really helpful. I don't think I would feel very well throughout the day if I wasn't eating anything. But yeah, you can drink several cups of bone broth throughout the day. And then with this plan, I was kind of playing around with or using, you could also have like a protein and vegetable at dinner if you were really hungry, or just like a couple of scoops of avocado throughout the day. Um, but I noticed that that really like reset my appetite and kind of took it down some. So to where I was really hungry and probably having some insulin dysregulation and my hormones were just kind of out of whack at the time too, and things are starting to like feel more calm and normal for me. I just think that was like a super helpful kind of reset with the fasting, and then like also getting the coffee right for me in the morning made a really big difference.
I think the coffee piece is huge. That's one of the first things I will always look at for patients. Especially part of it's the digestive health issue, right? It can be definitely an irritant, speed things up. It can be a diuretic, but the cortisol piece, the blood sugar piece, all of that is, and trust me, I love my coffee. So there are really good brands now that have, like you said, the mushroom, and then some of them have mushroom and some coffee in it. So it still tastes like a good coffee. So yeah, I think that's a great recommendation. So as you guys probably know, because I've shared before, my daughter's a type 1 diabetic, so I am not new to a CGM. This has been something we've been doing for years and years. But I will say a type 1 compared to a type 2 or a healthy person, the levels that we see are just so different. Um, I don't know if you talked about this in the beginning, but like what some of the things that we're looking at as a dietitian is how fast those spikes come down and the time in range that you're staying in range. So that will really determine a lot as far as your glucose, like how well your endocrine system is working. What I've actually noticed recently is a couple of people have a high baseline. So I was digging into that a bit. So, fasting, the doctor will say they want it under 100. We would say optimal, we want it under 90.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I,
80-90, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
hmm So what I was seeing is that people were sitting at about 105, maybe 107, 108. So they'll come up for their spike and then they'll come back down and they'll sit at that number. So as I dug more into this, it's beta cell, like losing our beta cells in our pancreas.
Interesting.
Yes. So again, that goes back to stem cell regeneration,
I know.
anti-aging.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something else that I've been really looking at lately is like, okay, mine will sit at 90 all day throughout the day. That's like my base. But yeah, all these patients are like a little bit higher. So that's something else to consider. Um, just like you said, I noticed, I was like, okay, as a dessert, I'm going to have an apple and some hummus. And that spiked my blood sugar so high. I did not expect that to happen. And the thing is, we're not telling you to not eat an apple or not have a banana necessarily. But what I did notice too is when I ate it at the end of a meal, except instead of separate as like a dessert later on, it balances itself out because we have that nice blend of macros. You have that protein, you have that fat, and then you have some of that complex carb. So some of our patients, well, everybody actually would benefit from keeping that carbohydrate piece to the end of the meal and starting with the fat and the protein. That'll help keep it more level overall. Um, the other thing, so, what I noticed too. Okay, so what I like about this is that instant feedback. So every 5 minutes, you get a blood sugar reading. And what I was expecting is, oh, I'm going to eat the apple and it'll spike instantly. It didn't. It
I
took,
know.
yeah,
That got me too the first time. I would be like staring at it, and then like 20 or 30 minutes later, it would be like going up.
right. So it does take a little time. So you have a little time to respond and do something about it. But what I thought was really cool is if I got on the treadmill or went outside for a walk, like the 20 minutes after a banana, for example, I could feel the extra energy I had, and my blood sugar came back down into normal range. So that movement and exercise after eating really helps with insulin sensitivity. So that would be something, and it alerts you, which is really cool too, is the app will tell you, okay, I see a trending spike, go and get some exercise. And that makes a huge difference. One other thing I want to share uh, is I could tell. So the time I had the apple and it spiked up and then it came back down, I had a headache a little bit afterwards.
Interesting.
So yeah, and it's happened a couple times. So if I've spiked up and I've come back down, after I come back down, I'll get a headache a little bit later.
With
So
apples or with different foods?
with different foods. So it's the quick up and the quick down.
Yeah.
There's that lasting effect. So I've always known this with Marin, my daughter. She'll get irritated or a headache or feel like um, they say for a type 1 that they feel hungover once they come down and have a crash after being up high. So it's interesting with having that CGM on. Now I know what it's like to have that high and a low. That's my body's response to it. So it's not that I need to have a CGM on forever, but now I know all the things, the foods and the symptoms in my body. Do you ever have that?
I don't have the headaches, but I definitely, if I'm crashing, I get moody. And what was interesting too to me is that so before I did this, if I felt like I was getting hypoglycemic or having low blood sugar, which since I've stabilized, I don't really have that feeling anymore. But before, if I felt like my blood sugar was getting low, I would eat something to bring it back up. And I wasn't really responding to my my hunger cues. It was more of a like blood sugar crash cue that's not really the same as like a coming from like my stomach hunger cue. Like it's a little bit different.
Mhm.
So I would eat to bring it back up, but what I realized with the CGM is like you can crash at any point. Like even if let's say I went from 180 to 110, that's a crash that's still within range. But before I had the CGM, before I knew better, I'd eat again. So like my blood sugar would spike back up and then it would come back. It was just like it was almost like I was eating in response all day to these blood sugar crashes that weren't crashes. They were just, it was a drop, but I was still within range. So I didn't really need to be refueling at that point. And this is as a dietitian. Like I had
Mhm.
no idea that food was, I mean, I could have told you like, I knew I had blood sugar issues, which is why I got with Alyssa and got the CGMs going. I wanted to try it out and see if I could stabilize, but I had no idea my blood sugar was like bouncing around like that. And just that little bit of knowledge, like cutting out some foods, being more aware of how I was feeling, looking at the effect of different coffees. It took me a while to switch the coffee because I'm a coffee lover, but like honestly, the Organo, I drink the Royal. It's like cordyceps, lion mane. What's the other one that's always in these coffee blends? Cordyceps, lion mane. There's another mushroom in there.
I was
Is
gonna
it
say
adaptation?
ashwagandha.
I know I
Yeah.
wanted to say ashwagandha too, but I think it's another mushroom. Anyways, I've hardly gotten sick at all. And it might be the immune boosting effects of the mushrooms, but it might also be, it's probably both. I mean, better blood sugar stabilization too.
Hmm.
But that says a lot because my kids are 7 and 3, and we have all sorts of germs coming in and out of our house. And I don't think I've really been sick in a couple of years. So it's been really kind of cool to see. Like, I don't know what caused what, but it doesn't really matter. It's been helpful. And and really positive, I think.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and it's interesting because I'm not even someone that would be flagged as like having blood sugar issues. I just knew that I was feeling really moody and really just irritable and tired, and that it's to me it felt like it was probably blood sugar related. So that's how I got into all of this stuff um, around it and using the CGM. And like without even making huge changes, I dropped 20 pounds of baby weight from having Rebecca. And it wasn't even like, I didn't even feel like I was working for it. It just kind of came off, like
Hmm.
just stopping those swings, which was awesome.
That's a huge piece of it. So when we leave our blood sugar too high or too low, it's causing dysfunction in the body. It's causing inflammation. You never lose weight when you have mild grade inflammation going on all the time. Another thing I've seen with patients, or I think is really interesting, or good use of CGM, is all the hypoglycemia, so the low blood sugars. So for people that are not sleeping well, they have insomnia at night, a lot of times it's an actual dip in blood sugar that wakes them up because they're so low. So it could be the person that goes out, has a snack in the middle of the night, but it doesn't even have to be that, just people that are waking up during the night. Um, Menopause is a really big time where it throws a lot of things off, including blood sugar balance. So people will say, oh, it's it's menopause. It's no big deal. It really could be just a blood sugar imbalance that people are dealing with too. So I think there's a lot more that we can dig into with a CGM. The nice thing with our patients, they can track what they're eating and it'll show all this different trending, like this meal spiked your blood sugar the most, this meal spiked it the least, and we can see for each person individually what is working best. So I really like that. I don't know, did you show it people the
No,
CGM?
I haven't.
Yeah, so it comes in this really little box. It's just a tiny little sensor. Do you have one on right
Yeah,
now?
but I have on two
Oh,
sets of long sleeves. I don't think I can get to it.
okay.
Yeah, it's
So I'm a big wuss when it comes to needles. And so I had to have my daughter put the first one on for me because you have to push a button. So you like have it here and you push this button. And the first time I was like, oh, it's like nothing. It really didn't feel like anything. So the next time I'm like, I can do this myself. I don't know. Do you do it like this where you put it down like this and
no,
go up?
I put mine on the outside of my arm. It's
Okay.
right here.
Yeah, so you can even put it on your belly, but a lot of people that use it for non-diabetic reasons will do it on the arm. So yeah, you can either put it around the side or go underneath is what they suggested. So I did it that way and yeah, I didn't feel it either. So if nerves are holding anybody back, I would definitely suggest just go for it and give it a try. And if you need someone else to do it in your family, it's really easy. It's just literally the push of a
Yeah.
button.
And the worst part is the 3 seconds, like before you push the button or the other person's pushing a button where you're just like anticipating the needle, but like you honestly don't even feel it. It's
Yeah.
really not bad. But yeah, I really I just think this is the ultimate in optimizing your health. Blood sugar balance, it affects so many different things. So I think I mean, if I was in charge, I would make everyone wear one for a month out of the year, just so you can see what your
Mhm.
blood sugar is doing and see what a big difference it makes when you get it well balanced. Um, and I guess, like, Erica, who would you say are people that are good candidates for a CGM?
Honestly, like you had just mentioned, I think everybody should for
Yeah,
optimizing their health.
anyone who wants to optimize their health. So that could be like
Yeah.
everyone. But what are
Yes.
some, like, if
Hmm.
you have like these symptoms, it would be
Yeah.
important to think about.
So definitely insulin resistance. So let's say you go to your doctor and they say you either have pre-diabetes or every year your fasting blood sugar is creeping up. That would be somebody that has weight loss resistance. So they're trying everything and they're not able to lose weight. So they definitely could be having some issues. The ones that are craving, and like you had talked about, where you felt like you were getting the blood sugar crash,
Yeah.
where you just felt like you needed to eat something. That crash is a lot of times like feeling shaky or like lightheaded or like, yeah, you just need to eat something. And if you eat something, you feel better.
Yep.
That's a sign that you have blood sugar dysregulation for sure. Um, if you're somebody that eats all day, eats small meals all day, I would definitely recommend you try it too, because what you're going to see is your blood sugar is just going to sit up high all day long. And again, we talked about that inflammation. High blood sugar causes that inflammation in the body. People with food sensitivities, people that are trying to optimize like an exercise routine. So if you're trying to run a marathon or something like that, I think that could be really insightful to help. What do I need to do to fuel before a race? What do I need to do to fuel after? Because you're going to see some big changes in your blood sugar.
Yeah, that would be a really interesting one too. And so when I got into blood sugar and kind of trying all the things to stabilize, because it was really challenging for me. Like I always tell people, like, I think 3 months of wearing a CGM is kind of the sweet spot because you have a month to just eat all the things you normally eat and see what it does. And then you have a couple months to run interventions and see what you can do to stabilize. Um, so as I've been going on this journey and I'm still like really into it, I was reading the book by the Glucose Goddess. It's about regulating your blood sugar, and she has like 3 or 4 really good tips in there. One of them is the ACV, like
Mhm.
before, after, or before meals. And I do it twice a day, and I feel like that's really stabilized me.
Mm.
The other one is, like you said, walking outside for or doing anything for like 10 to 15 minutes after you eat. That involves large muscle groups. So it could be like squats, it could be push ups, it could be taking a walk outside, getting on the elliptical, whatever. And then the other one was like the order in which you eat your foods, which I find really fascinating. Do you want to talk about that one?
Um, I'm actually thinking about another thing
You
quickly.
can find my book. Yeah.
Well, let me just, okay, so yeah, what I was saying before with the macros, it's about if you eat the sugary thing, the carbohydrate thing first, it'll just bring that blood sugar straight up. If you start with things that are harder to digest, the fats, the proteins, those will keep it much more balanced. There's so many. Just Google it and you'll be able to see what blood sugars do based on what you're eating in a meal. Is that what you're asking or what you were
Yeah.
saying?
So she had, and it's in the Glucose Goddess book, but also Alyssa had said at our contact at Signos, who helps us with the back end CGM stuff. So you eat your vegetables first, like the non-starchy vegetables, and then you eat your protein,
Mm.
and then you
Mhm.
eat your carbohydrate. And the really cool thing that I learned about vegetables, because we're still learning all the time, is that when you eat them, they like line the inside of your
Oh.
small intestines. Like the fiber lines the inside of your small intestines. So then as you're digesting and absorbing the carbohydrate from your meal, the glucose isn't immediately crossing that barrier. Like you have, it's going to make it out and not be as absorbed, which is why the blood sugar response is lower. Like I just
That,
think that is the coolest thing. And it's like the ultimate, the CGM is an awesome biohack, but so is that. I mean, that's just like how the body works, and it's really designed to help you out that way. So it's vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, right? Not the starchy ones because those would be carbs, and then your protein, and then your carbohydrate. So it would be like if you're gonna have fish, kale, and potatoes for dinner, you would eat the kale, then you would eat the fish, and then you would eat your potatoes.
hmm Right. People wait and they save their, I think about a picky kid. They'll like push those vegetables off and eat those last. But that's the first thing, even in weight management, you want volume. So fill up on those low calorie, high fiber type foods. It'll make you feel full faster too. So then you won't be eating as much.
Yeah,
So the other thing I like to show people when they're on a CGM is how stress affects their blood sugars.
yes.
So no, you wouldn't realize how much just a stressful event, like something happened and you got really worked up about it, it'll spike your blood sugar, even though you didn't eat anything, nothing was changed. So I think that's a great awareness tool. Same thing with sleep. If you have a bad night's sleep, it just can raise your level of blood sugar all day the next day. I think that's interesting. There's so many components. Blood sugars are complex. There's so many inputs that come in that affect what happens with our blood sugar. So, like you said, doing this for 3 months is really ideal because you run into so many different scenarios and really can understand what's happening in the body.
Yeah, and I also think the foods that affect your blood sugar can change over time.
Hmm.
So like I know, for example, last time I did this, which is it's probably been maybe 8 months since I was wearing one last. But like peanut butter never spiked my blood sugar, but now if I eat peanut butter, my blood sugar spikes. So I'm
And
like, well, that's interesting.
you didn't change the brand or
I
anything,
really
was it?
didn't, no. And I was using it as like a snack. Like I would just, if I was hungry and had to like run out the door, or if it was like before dinner and I was just like starving, I would eat like a spoonful of peanut butter. But I have to switch to almond butter because now, for
Hmm,
whatever reason, and maybe it was too much peanut butter and it's become like a little bit inflammatory, like on the Leaf diet.
sure.
I'm really not sure, but yeah, every single time I've had it since this round of the CGM, I'm like, wow, there it goes again.
Mm. Yeah, you wouldn't think that would happen. But I will
Yeah,
tell you, with Marin doing the MRT and me tracking her blood sugar, we talked last time about how it really reduced her need for insulin, but it
yeah.
also kept her blood sugars in balance. She didn't have the crazy spikes she was having before, and it really kept it in range. So using all these different tools, it just helps you better understand your body and biohack your own health and get you there a lot faster. So instead of like guessing, or, you would think, okay, yeah, peanut butter, it's protein and mostly fat. It shouldn't spike your blood
I
sugar.
mean, it's like maybe 4 grams of carbs, 2 or 4. It's like
It's
it's not the carbs. It's got
right.
to be like an inflammatory food for me
Yeah.
right now. That's what I think. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been really interesting. So I think just checking in on it every now and then, because if I didn't know and I kept eating it, like, I need to take a break, obviously, is what my body is saying about that food,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. I
Yeah.
can get almond butter. Yeah.
Right. You find the alternative that does not spike the blood sugar.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah. And that was another, like, it's changed how I eat so much and how I think about food. And I mean, even as a dietitian that's been practicing for years, it's probably been the most eye opening thing that I've personally experienced in a long time.
Yeah. So we would love more of our patients to give this a try. This is definitely, it could be added to anything that we're currently working on with a patient. So even, I find it interesting because we always talk about the gut, all right? And part of it is what you digest and absorb. So it's interesting as people go through different phases or journeys within their gut healing, it will change. The foods will not be the same. We're changing every day. We were just learning on a call before this, how quickly the stem cells in our gut lining turn over. So we are we're recreating our body. I think it's every like 2 or 3 years we regenerate our whole body.
Yeah, that's
So
insane.
yeah, so monitoring and checking these things more frequently is important.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, we're gonna wrap this up, but you can leave them in the comments below, and we will be back next week talking about one of our other favorite optimizing tools, the NutriVal. So vitamin and mineral levels, how to test them, why they're important. And this does also, we always talk about it for nutrient levels, but it also looks at markers of detoxification and your detoxification ability. So it can be a real game changer for people.
Hmm.
Definitely don't want to miss that.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks, Erica. And we
Yep.
will see you guys next week.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.